You're a Type 2 certified hazmat operation.
Yes, sir.
What does that mean to Stark Countyans in terms of your capability to handle disasters, catastrophes as they come along?
Well, it means we can handle anything of a known substance or an unknown substance. We don't handle WMDs. If it was a weapons of mass destruction, then what we would do is we can call Summit County or we can call the 52nd Civil Support Team out of Columbus, and they would come in to help us out. And that's why we trained with the 52nd team last year. They came up and trained with us. And it was a WMD scenario, radiological WMD scenario, and a bomb. So that was real good training with them. So that's what we provide for the county. And most of the calls, obviously we haven't had a WMD incident in Ohio, to my knowledge, for a long time that I've heard of. There are borderline stuff like that. I mean, just a week ago I was called on what's called a Japanese knee mortar round. It was a World War II mortar round in a drawer of a guy that had fought in World War II, passed away, and his wife was going through drawers and pulled out the drawer, and this mortar round rolled in there. And we brought in the dog to smell it. He hit on it right away, said it was live gunpowder. Brought in a representative from Summit County Bomb Squad, and he dismantled it. And inside here, the high explosives was removed, and large bullets were put inside with it, live bullets. So the dog was able to hit on the gunpowder and the shells. But that's just stuff we get all the time. Just, got called 2 weeks ago on possible sticks of dynamite, and just. It's not really WMDs, but, it's the same approach you have to make.
There was some discussion in the meeting that if a certain event happened, there could be 20,000 casualties,
Yes,
50,000 casualties.
Right.
So what, in that particular situation, obviously, Stark Hazmat wouldn't be up to handling something like that, so you have resources to call in?
Well, in anything like that, the big initial item that the fire department has to do is evacuate. Even a WMD can't handle that because it's a catastrophic breach in the tank, and if it's a severe enough problem, then that authority having jurisdiction, the fire chief or battalion chief needs to evacuate the area and shelter in place. And that's the way with anything that where you have a situation where we call a mass casualty incident. And mass casualty is when you have more people hurt than you can handle. So, if you're going on an ambulance and you get 10 people rolled over in a car, to you that's a mass casualty. And the Hall of Fame, it's plotted out different scenarios that can be a mass casualty. And sometimes it might be a bomb, or something like that. But you plan on different, like wargaming, you plan on different things. Even though it's a civilian truck rolled over, it still can do a lot of damage. Rail car is another one. I mentioned a rail car. And so,
okay.
Evacuation, standoff distances.
Did the team need to be a Type 2 team to respond yesterday? Or could you have responded under the Type 3 designation?
Well, Type 3 is not just known. The problem is not just you can't do unknowns. It's staff. I mean, I could get real specific. Like a Type 2 team must have at least 18 technicians that can respond.
You have 37, right?
We have 37 technicians, but any given day, you're not going to get all 37.
I see.
You're
even if the situation called for it?
Oh, yeah, because they're in jobs. And they're working full-time at fire departments. Just like even in that situation, we have people on the hazmat team, but they're working full-time with the Kent Fire Department. So they have to do their fire job. Now, they can help us, but, then if they move out of their fire position, now there's a void in the fire department. So, the goal is the reason we want 37 to 40, so we're hoping to get, 50 or 40% show up, at a scene when it's an all call. So that's one thing, the equipment. You wouldn't have area array monitors, as a Type 3 team. Some do, some don't, but you're not really required. chemical ID units, that powder situation. In fact, both what I showed you, white powder, the bank situation, they don't have a chemical analyzer for that because that's an unknown powder. But we can take that white powder, and we did, and put it under. It's an $85,000 unit, but that unit we put the white powder in, and it says it's baking soda. That's what it was.
Yeah. Okay.
Not the bank, but the other one.
Yeah. When did the bank happen? When did that Louisville one? Is that last year?
No, it was been a couple of years.
Yeah, a couple of years. Yeah, that was interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
How that was.
Yeah, and then.
So but what you're saying is, so as a Type 3, I mean, you would not have had the monitors if necessarily.
Right, or the staffing.
Okay.
And believe it or not, what happened when 9/11 happened? The feds jumped out a whole bunch of money, and then the typing system came, and so a lot of teams said, "Yeah, we'll buy this equipment." But two things wrong with that. Number one, you have to maintain the equipment. We brought that up, and it takes tens of thousands of dollars every year just to maintain the equipment. The other thing is staffing, and the reason a lot of these teams around us are not being able to type even a level 3, they can't furnish the staff. Even for a level 3 team.
So there's a Type 1?
There's a Type 1 team north of us at Summit County, and then...
How many do they have to have?
I think it's 23.
23.
I believe so. So we have the staffing for a level 1 team. We'd have to buy probably around $60,000, $70,000 more with their equipment. And that's WMD detection, like explosive detective units, we have radiological monitors, but there's things called isotope identifiers. For example, if you go by one of our air array monitors and you set it off because it's detecting some kind of radiological source, so on our computer it says, hey, we have a hit here for a radiological source. And we approach you and you say, oh, I'm being treated for thyroid cancer or something like that. And we'll say, what type of medicine you're on. And you'll say, well, I'm on cesium, or not cesium, but like iodine 131 is a medical isotope. A Type 1 team can come up behind you without you even knowing it and basically survey your body and identify the isotope in your body to see if you're lying. All right? And so that's an isotope identifier. And that would be a Type 1 team. It's a WMD thing. So that just gives you an example.
Now, there was a little bit of discussion about the oil and gas drilling in Stark County. Should Stark Countyans feel comfortable about Hazmat's ability to respond and handle any kind of an incident that happens at a drill site in Stark County?
Well, if it's a Hazmat incident, yes. But, a lot of incidents on drilling can be like fires, explosions, stuff like that.
But from a Hazmat standpoint, Stark Countyans should sleep well at night?
Oh, yeah. We would handle it like anything else. For example, DOT placarding on the reinforced ring trucks that go to the fracking sites, it's placarded as crude oil. And so it's a flammable product. And, we're used to dealing with flammable product, whether it's fracking or it's...
So you're familiar with all the chemicals they use in these processes?
It's not we're familiar with all the chemicals in any industry because there's thousands of chemicals. So there's no way to know, I don't want to name companies, but any company in the area, we can't know all the chemicals they have. But they must have material safety data sheets. So we walk into a chemical company or a company that uses chemicals, and they have it, they must produce materials safety data sheet.
Instantly?
Well, within a reasonable time.
Okay.
They must have it there. Now, don't get me wrong. The spill,
you're talking about there on site, right?
Right, but the spill could have ruined it. So therefore, we go into identifying what really the product is. See what I mean? And it was mentioned there, I think Chief Burgasser mentioned, for example, a truck can be placarded, but if it's rolled over and the placard flies off it, we're going to have to identify what's really in that truck.
I see.
See what I mean? So there's where your unknown identification really comes in handy of that equipment.
So yesterday, would that substance been known or unknown? Would that been considered a known substance?
Well, It would have been considered unknown, but initially, because you have people complaining of a sulfur smell. So, and this is an example how you kind of go through the steps. So, for example, cyanide has an almond smell. So if everybody's saying, man, everybody's getting sick, but they smell bitter almonds, then you might think it might be cyanide. It's just an idea. It's kind of like a puzzle sometimes. So like that is, we got sulfur smell complaint. Well, then our monitors have hydrogen sulfide sensors. They don't have sulfur dioxide sensors. So see what I mean? So we have some monitors with that. Some monitors with sensors, hydrogen sulfide. Then Marathon brings sulfur dioxide. Boom, we get a hit. And we found out it was 53 parts per million, which threw the red flags up. This isn't just smoke burning or steam giving off. We have a chemical release here, and not necessarily a spill, but it's a release through burning. And then we found out through other information, through some neighbors, that they were chipping away at sulfur with the chemical sulfur with a jackhammer before this, like last week and the week before. Well, that makes sense now. You have sulfur with friction, or you have sulfur that's being chipped away, whether it polymerizes or have an exothermic reaction or friction or whatever. Sulfur burning releases the sulfur dioxide. So now you start putting the puzzle together.
Back to the oil and gas thing.
Yes.
Has the Stark Hazmat had specific training in dealing with hazards that could come out of an accident at a drill site?
Actually, Chief Burgasser and Don McDonald, the head of the LEPC, puts on a program on that very specific thing. The whole fracking. What is fracking? How it's done? What are the hazards of it? And so forth. And so they presented one of our training at Hazmat was Don's program.
I see.
And we will probably have it again. In fact, as a fire department, I think we're scheduled to have it within a month or two. We were scheduled.
So how often do you have this training?
Well, I don't know. That alone.
Is it on a yearly basis, kind of an update thing?
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much because it's fairly new. So we had it last year, but there's so many other things to be trained on.
Right.
Radiological sources.
Right.
So it's hard to get all the training in.
Right.
And I always encourage people to go to external schools. The federal government has free schools you can go to. And I've been to counterterrorism school for radiological incidents, initial response to terrorist bombings, suicide bombing school in New Mexico. I've been out the Department of Homeland Security actually has a little town in New Mexico you can go to. And
does your employer allow you time off to go to these with pay? Keep you on?
The Canton Fire Department's been really good with that. It's primarily because I'm the team manager of the Hazmat team, but they have let me off to go to these schools because it's totally paid for. The airfare, the food, shelter, clothing, the truck, everything's paid for by the federal government.
So the only consequence to Canton is that you're just not here, right?
Right. So it's a great benefit to municipalities to send people to these schools. They're great schools. And when you go to bombing schools, you have people that were at Oklahoma City bombing that did the investigation. They're teaching a class on it. And they actually go out and blow up stuff, cars, buildings.
Right. I know this puts you on the spot.
No, that's fine.
But are you the most capable person in Stark County on this type of thing?
I would say everybody's more capable than me.
What I'm getting at is, what if something happens to you? Are there other people?
Well, the Hazmat team has control officers. And, for example, on this last spill, when Captain Harris showed up as a control officer, and he was working with the fire department at the time as captain, and he initiated the Hazmat team, I didn't come take over the incident. I came and became what we call a PIO, Public Information Officer. So that's why, I was on TV, Vince is the control officer for the Hazmat team. You set up different positions.
So you got a number of people that can
Exactly.
step in and
Mainly our most qualified are control officers. They've been on the team, they've been to schools, and so we make them either control officers or alternates. And but our technicians, we try to train them all the time. We just had an all-day drill Saturday.
okay,
So
all right.
I'm not going to say I'm the most qualified.
So under the circumstances for yesterday, and when you said that there was, at least initially, the unknown, so if you were a Type 3, what would you have had to do at that point? I mean, could you have explored it further, or as a Type 3, would you have had to stop at that point? I didn't know where, when you're Type 3.
That's an interesting question because, and I don't like to bring up other teams, but we have gone out on calls to other teams that are Type 3, or not even Type 3, they're trying to be a Type 3, for unknowns.
Yeah.
And so we try to help them out. What's the product?
Yeah, I was just wondering, like, under that situation, would you have had to call somebody else in, or would you...
Well,
I guess...
just on that specific, because of the nature of when they started to make entry, at that point, we didn't draw a sample and analyze it. See what I mean? It caught fire.
Right.
All right? But at the point where the atmospheric monitors, oh yeah, that's all Type 2 equipment.
Okay.
Because
So
it's the first part was going to be a help to draw a sample and do a chemical analysis. We didn't get there, it caught fire.
Yeah.
But the second part, we're evacuating neighborhoods and putting sensors out, that's definitely a Type 2.
Limited if you had just been a Type 3 team.
Oh, definitely.
Okay.
No doubt about
Okay,
that.
that's what I was trying to get at. When
We would have had to call mutual aid probably.
Okay.
Right, and that's what it is. Mutual aid. It's not going to be a cost to the local taxpayer. It's just you do this with
could be.
Could it?
If we bring in like Summit County Hazmat team, it just depends on agreement. Like Summit County and us have, I'm not sure the written documentation, but pretty much an agreement that we'd help each other out if we have a call. But they're incurring expenses.
Right.
So, now we can run, we've been authorized to run to any adjacent county to Stark County. Heads up. In other words, if right now I get a call from a fire chief in Dover, and he says, we need your team, we can't handle this, what we're doing, then we're on the road. Okay? If it's 2 counties away, then we go through the Ohio Fire Marshal's emergency response plan. And so we can't move. We have to say, okay, you have an emergency response plan number. And they actually get a hold of Columbus, say, we need to bring in an outside agency and it's 2 counties away. We need an Ohio Chief's response plan number. They get that number, they give it to us, whatever that number is, now we can move. Because now we're getting into the reimbursement. We're into getting covered by workers' comp if we get in a wreck, that kind of deal. So there's kind of like tiers that we have to go to when we go outside of Stark County.
Like with the Dover Chemical situation, who do you bill? Did you bill
Dover Chemical.
Dover? Okay, I didn't know if you had to go through their team and their
Well,
team billed Dover and then they reimbursed through.
I don't know, and it's just a paperwork stuff. I'm not sure whether when we have a bill, we literally give it to EMA, Emergency Management Agency, all the time.
Okay.
And then they forward it to the agency.
Okay.
Now, whether they routed it through their EMA, that would be just a paperwork thing.
Okay.
Right.
You know,
but the money came from Dover Chemical.
Yeah,
and just maybe
Dover
pictures
Chemical
at
paid.
different- Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
they paid.
Okay. Thank you.